When you drop thousands of dollars and burn 2 weeks of PTO to fly across the Atlantic, the pressure is on. You want to maximize every single second of that European vacation to get the highest possible return on your investment. Naturally, a lot of travelers look at Germany. It has a flawless reputation, world-class infrastructure, incredibly safe cities, trains that actually run on time, and a deep, complex history. But then you look at the post-trip reviews, and a strange pattern emerges. Travelers often come back saying their trip felt unexpectedly calm, sometimes even a little sterile. They liked it, but they missed the defining, overwhelming wow factor they expected from Europe. This chart shows what we'll call the expectation matrix, which helps explain why this happens. On the vertical axis, we have sensory stimulation, the pure, chaotic energy of a place. On the horizontal axis, we have operational stability, or how efficiently the country runs. Traditional mega-tourism capitals like Paris and Venice sit right up here. They provide massive visual stimulation the second you step outside, even if they score lower on operational stability. Germany sits way over here. It maxes out on infrastructure and safety, but registers significantly lower on immediate sensory chaos. Applying a frantic landmark hopping strategy to a country built for stability creates a mismatch in expectations. You are essentially using the wrong travel toolkit for this specific environment. What those other capitals have is high tourist density, tightly packed concentrations of globally recognizable, highly photographed landmarks designed for rapid consumption. Germany operates on a different metric entirely: cultural density. This is a decentralized network of historical context, regional traditions, and deep experiential learning. You have to actively engage with it. It doesn't just wash over you. Take Berlin. Its value comes from complex historical variants rather than superficial beauty. Sites like the Brandenburg Gate carry immense physical scale, but the real weight is in the history attached to the stone. German urban centers are heavily anchored by museums and memorials. These are pristine epicenters of culture, but they require deep intellectual engagement, not a quick 10-second selfie. Feeling bored in a German city usually signals a failure to align your itinerary with an environment built for depth rather than speed. This matrix shows how different travel components inside Germany yield very different emotional outcomes. Let's look at what happens when you focus entirely on cities. If your input is strictly major historical capitals, your outcome is high educational value, but also high emotional fatigue. Spending day after day unpacking the heavy, dense realities of 20th century history takes a psychological toll. It is fascinating, but it is deeply exhausting. To fix this, your trip needs an emotional reset. You have to pivot away from the stark northern capitals and embed regional cultural hubs into your route. Munich is the prime example of this regional antidote. It prioritizes public leisure and architectural warmth over heavy historical listens. Here, you engage in experiential local traditions. Communal dining and the massive scale of Bavarian beer culture provide that necessary sense of true vacation relaxation.
A successful German itinerary forces you to trade a few days at famous historical sites for localized, sensory-rich leisure in the south. Otherwise, you will burn out. Then there's the transit. Because Germany's rail network is famous worldwide, travelers default to booking train-only, city-hopping routes. The reality is that while the system is highly efficient, it locks you into moving through vast, engineered industrial corridors. The core trade-off is simple. If you optimize your entire trip for transit speed, you sacrifice seeing the aesthetic and natural beauty of the country. Look at the transit and nature columns on our matrix. If your input is renting a car, your outcome changes to what we call decentralized tourism, granting you access to decentralized beauty. Seeing Germany's rural landscape requires taking on the added friction of renting a car and seeking out the routes high-speed rail lines completely bypass. Treating perfect train infrastructure as the sole way to travel creates a sterile trip. You actually need strategic inefficiency to find the magic. The specific payoff for that driving strategy is accessing preserved, decentralized history. The Romantic Road is designed specifically for this. These medieval towns offer a sharp visual contrast. You trade the concrete and steel of major urban capitals for cobblestone streets and colorful half-timbered houses. But the ultimate hybrid environment is the Rhine Valley. It blends dramatic natural landscapes with highly localized history. The geographic formula of the Rhine is what makes it valuable. You get dense concentrations of medieval castles directly overlooking active terraced river landscapes. The immense scale of this rural dispersal completely changes the pacing of your trip as you move through consecutive small villages along the water. Venturing beyond the major cities provides the necessary emotional balance to transform a dense educational tour into a restorative vacation. So how do we turn this theory into execution? For a standard European travel window, there is a definitive balanced architecture formula. To achieve optimal balance, you need 3 building blocks: 1 urban history center, plus 1 regional culture hub, plus 1 nature route. This equals optimal return on investment. Apply strict constraints. On a 7 to 9 day trip, limit yourself to 2 to 3 destinations. In practice, that looks like this: Berlin for your heavy history, Munich for your cultural leisure, and a drive through the Rhine Valley for your nature. By intentionally seeing fewer cities than the average tourist, you mathematically guarantee a deeper, higher quality experience. Ultimately, you have to make an objective decision about whether you should spend your money on this specific country. Let's split travelers into 2 profiles. Avoid Germany if you demand constant visual spectacle, overwhelming tourist energy, and rapid landmark consumption. But if you seek refuge from over-tourism and value deep civic organization, pristine environments, and slow-paced cultural depth, this is your spot. When you choose Germany for the right reasons, the emotional reward is a profound sense of order and peace. A successful German trip demands a traveler who values engineered cultural depth over the superficial energy of traditional tourist hubs.